It is 9:30 p.m. Central African Time. A very good evening to you and a warm welcome to the Globe on SABC News. I'm coming to you live from Johannesburg. I'm Simphiwe Ngone. Thanks indeed for being a part of the show this evening. Plenty more coming up this hour. And one of the big stories of the day is the brutal murder of Ghanaian journalist Ahmed Hussein, who has been credited for exposing corruption in the African continent. And also take a look at news coming out of The Hague, wherein the former Ivory Coast President Laurent Gbagbo was acquitted at the International Criminal Court. But then his release was halted pending an appeal. And we are joined in studio by the Secretary General of Mr. Gbagbo's party, FPI, and he joins Lulu at the main desk right now. Lulu, very good evening to you, and it's over to you.
A very good evening to you, Simphiwe, and thank you so much for joining us. Now, a former president of Cote d'Ivoire, Laurent Gbagbo, was acquitted at the International Criminal Court on Wednesday of crimes against humanity. Trial judges had earlier ordered Gbagbo and his right-hand man, Charles Ble Goude's immediate release after clearing them of any role in a wave of post-electoral violence in 2010 and 2011 that killed 3,000 people. But his release was halted late last night pending an appeal. Evariste Kotchi, the Secretary General of the FPI party in South Africa, joins us in studio for more on this. Now, the FPI party was founded by Laurent Gbagbo. Kotchi, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us on The Globe.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Now, your reactions to the ICC's rulings?
This is a very good reaction. We have been expecting it because we have been fighting all the time through. We knew that President Laurent Gbagbo will be released from jail because after 7 years of unjust detention at the International Criminal Court at The Hague, we can't accept the fact that Gbagbo keeps staying there or keeps being detained there as he is released. I think this is a symbol of victory that will bring reconciliation in Ivory Coast, because all the parties, whether from the south of Ivory Coast or the north of Ivory Coast, everyone is really enthusiastic at hearing that.
Now, the reaction to the appeal and the halting of his release, what has this done to the FPI party and the support, people on the ground, having seen the reaction of the people, a lot of excitement, a lot of jubilation? Take us through the thought process of the FPI.
In fact, the FPI is a very dynamic party because since we have been a victim of that decision of the detention, we didn't give up. We never gave up. Sorry, we never said no. It is finished. We kept fighting. It is in fact a great victory because on TV, on radio, everywhere, we kept having the moral high because we know that Gbagbo is not a criminal, and whatever they said about him is not real. And we had the last word, and the ruling now is a fair one because it is a great victory.
Now, the delay with regards to the appeal by the lawyers, what do you think of that?
In fact, the appeal is not even just because in such a situation, after someone has been detained for 7 years and now he has been declared innocent, we gave the time to the prosecution to find the real reason, the ground for detaining Gbagbo, as now the head of or the president of the court, of the tribunal, with his team have decided that Gbagbo is free. These are what I may call the last kick of the donkey from the prosecution, because after writing 4,000 pages book to say that Gbagbo is guilty, nothing has been found. For me, they are just distracting people. It is not even valid. And I agree with the chief president, the head of the tribunal, Mr. Kuno, yes, that this appeal should be dismissed, which is what is being underway.
Now, some lawyers have criticized the court, saying the rulings is flawed. What's your take on that?
You mean the appeal?
Yes.
The appeal is not...
The ruling itself with regards to the decision to acquit President
No, this is a fair decision. No one who is, or anyone who is in prison for 7 years on unjust basis cannot keep being in prison. There is justice in this world. Initially, no one could even believe that the International Criminal Court will be just when it comes to the decision. But as it is presented like that, I don't know who can tell us that it's not good.
Now, Kotchi, former President Gbagbo faces a 20-year jail term for economic crimes imposed by an Ivorian court last year. What happens to this particular case?
First of all, there is no economic crime that Gbagbo is guilty of. These are allegations from the former colonizer, France. Imagine someone who has not even been proved that he has an account on a paradise account somewhere in wherever you name. He doesn't have even a house in France or wherever in the world. We cannot speak about an economic crime. The man doesn't have even a bank account. Everything has been looked into so far. He is a free citizen. If something like that could be against him, how come he has been declared innocent? That's the point. Otherwise, they will find ground to detain him in jail. He doesn't have anything. He hasn't committed any crime.
Now, Kotchi, there's been unconfirmed reports that say that former President Gbagbo may return to Cote d'Ivoire and run for the presidency again. Now, we were chatting before going on air, and you were talking about the man that he is 7 years later after being held at the ICC and him dealing with his circumstances. Take us through, do you think President Gbagbo will return to Cote d'Ivoire, and is there even a possibility of him running for the presidency again?
You don't know what can happen in the mind of someone who has been in jail for 7 years. He hasn't said anything. We are still hanging there. We want this to come out of his own mouth. He might be willing to come. He might say he doesn't want to come. But until he has spoken, then we will know. But what I know for a fact is that the whole population of Ivory Coast that consider President Laurent Gbagbo as the key actor for the reconciliation of the country, of the nation, will decide. And we will see whether he's still willing to be in power. On the other side, the one of the ruling party of Alassane Ouattara, we don't even know what they are thinking of Gbagbo. Will they accept him to come to the country? These are questions that we need to address.
Now, former President of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki, was called to negotiate and mediate the issue. How close, if any, do you have ties with South Africa and the former President Thabo Mbeki's foundation?
President Thabo Mbeki, or former President Thabo Mbeki, is a man of dialogue. You remember, President Thabo Mbeki is the one who asked Laurent Gbagbo to make a special gesture in terms of the constitution of Ivory Coast to allow Alassane Ouattara to be a candidate for the presidential elections, which happened. He trusted Alassane Ouattara that he will run for only one mandate. But once the guy started being in power, he changed his mind under the instruction of the mother colony, that is France. This is why they have been doing that. So far, President Thabo Mbeki is a good guy. Without him, certainly, the war could be certainly a blunder for the whole country. The killing will be even more than what we saw. He allowed Alassane Ouattara to be a candidate for the sake of peace. But we never know what is behind the mind of the person who is targeting big. Alassane Ouattara is a greedy man. Thabo Mbeki did the right thing.
Has there been any reaction with regards to the president and the president's government currently in the Ivory Coast?
I repeat your...
The president has there been...
Ouattara, you mean?
The government and President Alassane Ouattara, has there been any reaction with regards to the acquittal of former President Laurent Gbagbo and now the appeal process, which has delayed his release?
I think everyone is happy at home. Remember, politics is a dirty game. No one will accept to give a seat and say, as you were the one who won the election and you couldn't rule, now as you have been released from jail, come and sit on the throne that I have been occupying. So far he hasn't said anything, but we believe that he's happy. But the coming days will tell us more about his reaction.
And what are your plans as the FPI party, which was founded by former President Laurent Gbagbo, going forward?
What is the plan?
Yes.
Our plan?
Your plan as the party. You have your ideas and your hopes and aspirations for former President Laurent Gbagbo.
Yes.
And has there been any discussion? You mentioned earlier the fact that some people were visiting him through the process of the 7 years.
I said it.
Any plans for the FPI?
The FPI party is a party of dialogue. We are targeting big. We want the country to be ruled for the national citizens of Cote d'Ivoire. We want Cote d'Ivoire to be for Africans. We want Cote d'Ivoire to be to have a fair share of the cake, national cake. Gbagbo has always been fighting for that. Unfortunately, people don't want things to happen the way African wants. The FPI party wants the Ivorian to be well recompensed with the resources of the country, which the French political arena have been denying to us.
Evariste Kotchi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
We'll leave it there for now.
Thank you.
That is Evariste Kotchi, the Secretary General of the FPI party in South Africa, and he was joining us live in studio.